In whose interest is this country run? That's what this election is about. It's about whether we have a society that is rigged in favour of these arrogant vested interests that are responsible for plunging this country over and over again into crisis. Or is it a country run in the interests of the real wealth creators? The people who create the wealth that see so little of it. Because yeah, we're talking about who runs Britain. I don't just mean about Labour or the Conservatives. It's about the people who are always in charge, whichever party is in office. And that's what has to change. Let's talk about the sort of society that we could build instead. We will look back in horror one day at the idea that anybody had to earn their poverty through their work, whilst the taxpayer had to pay billions of pounds of money to top up those wages to give them just a chance to live, all because of the arrogance of these big businesses who don't think they have to pay their workers. And that's why we have to have a genuine living wage. It's about a society where we build the housing that people need. Let's have a radical house building programme whereby we can build decent homes which create decent skilled jobs for the next generation, backed up with apprenticeships, and we don't have to spend that money instead on private landlords who are charging rents you can't afford to pay. What about those small businesses with that entrepreneurial flair doing the best they can? Those local coffee shops, those local bookshops driven out of business by large companies not paying their taxes. You have to pay your taxes. You don't have a choice. That's how it works. It comes out your pay packet. If you're a small business, you get your taxes a bit wrong, Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs will knock on your door pronto. These big corporate giants who fund the Conservative Party, they don't think they have to pay those taxes. They have accountancy firms who are sent to government to help draw up the laws on tax. Then they tell their clients how to avoid the very laws they themselves have written in the first place. But that has to change. These small businesses should pay less tax. But as well as that, they should be paid on time, properly, by these big, arrogant businesses who think they're above having to pay the little guys. The self-employed. I know from speaking to self-employed people how they like their independence, not the insecurity. Poorer than they were many years ago. That's why they should have proper rights to pensions, paid sick leave, paid maternity leave as well. What about education? If you don't invest in the next generation, then you don't invest in your country's own future. And that's what we've seen for the last few years. We should have universal school meals, good quality, healthy school meals, not junk food. Universal free school meals paid for by making private schools play by the same rules as everybody else, having to pay VAT like a private business should. A National Health Service, it is the crown jewel of this country, the envy of the world, but it's been run down, it's been privatised, we've not invested in it, and we need to, we've got an ageing population. And that's why, instead of giving huge tax cuts to multi-billionaires, if that money was invested into our National Health Service, think of what we'd do. Think of the waiting lists that would be shortened. I've got relatives at the moment, like many of you, in desperate need of care. But that care is being undermined, not because of the lack of dedication of our doctors and nurses, who commit their whole lives to looking after my family and your families as well, but because our government is running down our National Health Service.
Morning, Mr. Hunt.
And allowing private properties who aren't interested in patients, like my relatives or yours, but making a quick buck. So let's make those at the top of society pay a bit more tax so we can have a National Health Service that we're proud of. Now, we're told that this is just an election on Brexit. And yeah, Brexit is a biggie. But what sort of Brexit do we have?
Actually, we want a red, white and blue Brexit.
The Brexit the Tories will come up with will be the interests of those who fund the Conservative Party. It will be the interests of those big businesses, the wealthy individuals that the Conservative Party fights for and champions so well. We could have a Brexit instead that puts jobs, living standards and the economy first. A Labour Brexit will be about what's in the best interests of working people, the people in the supermarkets, in the offices, in the factories, the people who make this country work. This is a society with so much potential. It is one of the wealthiest countries that has ever existed in the history of humanity. But where does that wealth go? I think it should go into the pockets of wealth creators who, through the hard graft, keep this country running day after day after day. We can vote for a party which is bankrolled by the vested interests holding this country back, or a party that was literally set up to represent the interests of working people, the people who make this country work, who make it in so many ways the great country that it is. The Labour Party, with every policy, every single policy that it thinks up, it does it on the basis of one test. Is this in the interests of working people? This is going to be a tough fight. It's going to be really hard, and they're going to throw absolutely everything at us. But this is the vested interests and the establishment doing everything they can to defend their wealth and power and have a government that is committed to doing just that. If you give them that huge majority that at the moment they take for granted, then that will give them a blank cheque to do all the things they've done in the past, so much worse. So let's step up to this challenge in the coming weeks, and let's make the case for a country that run in the interests of the arrogant vested interests, but run in the interests of you instead.